particular Tuesday night, I guess, she comes in to tell her story, and she says, well, she couldn't get any feelings going either. So she says, well, I quit law school to help put my husband through law school. And then when he got out of law school, he divorced me for someone younger and prettier. And then he took the house, and I guess that's okay because he's a lawyer and I couldn't afford a lawyer. And well, I just wasn't enough. And so that's how it happened. But then he wants to take the kids, and I'm just feeling like, well, maybe, I just don't feel right about that. Now, she wasn't angry, right? She was just telling her story, but the people in the group were looking at her like, so Barbara says, you'd better, get angry about this. Otherwise, the people in the group are going to go out and find him and kill him. So you got to get to this. She says, but I'm not angry. She goes, try. So she says, Ronnie, put your fingers in your ears. So he does. And she says, all right, now look at Ronnie. She looks at Ronnie. He's like, Ronnie, why do you dress like that? You idiot. You look terrible. And then she was able to get from that feeling to her feelings of anger about what was going on in her life. And she, I guess, went off like a volcano. Everybody was happy that she did that. She felt better. And then, of course, she started, resisting some of these things that were being taken away from her. So time went on, and Ronnie came every time and never had any feelings to talk about. But one night he did. Came in and he said, I'm depressed. And she goes, oh, a feeling. Okay, what are you depressed about, Ronnie? He says, well, I hate my apartment. All right, she says, great, everybody. Look, let's just, you all go out and get the Village Voice. It was at a time when apartments were cheap and easy to find in New York. And so they all went out and got the Village Voice, found him an apartment. She says, we'll go in, we'll have a painting party. I'll bring a potted plant. We'll get them all fixed up. They did. And Ronnie was happy. Comes to the next meeting, he says, now I want a woman. And they all looked at him and said, Ronnie, women hate you. And she says, now, wait a minute here. Let's just see what can happen. What I want you to do is go out and find a woman for Ronnie. So they did. They all went out and they come back and say, I think I found one. I saw this lady in the supermarket and all she had was a can of cat food and a frozen dinner. So I said, want to go to a party? And then another one said, I found one. I was walking down the hall and I heard someone crying inside and saw that her trash had too many wine bottles in it. So I said, want to go to a party? They're finding all these lonely women. So they had a lot of parties, had a lot of fun. Eventually, he found a woman liked him, attached herself to him. And so he was happy, but and part of the reason why he was able to get to that point was because when they told him, women hate you, he says, well, fix me. So the women got him dressed up better. The men took him to the gym. So he and then they practiced talking with him because was horrible in social conversation. And so they got him fixed up. He got a woman, and it was kind of a proof that, well, anything can happen. We can put a person on the moon if we can get Ronnie a woman, right? So so she tells more stories about this eventually evolved into, she gave workshops to larger groups of people, and she figured out what you have to figure out is, what is it that you want? What is your dream? But the other part that's absolutely necessary to this is, what is your obstacle to that dream? Okay. So she says, the whole world makes you do what you have to do, but then how do you get around to doing what you want to do? So she asked the group, she said, why don't we start doing in this group? Why don't we just find out what it is we want to do and make each other do it? And they all go, well, these are New Yorkers. She said, they all said, no, we're too neurotic. We don't know how to do that. Anyway, we don't know what we want. Well, we'll figure that out. We'll help you figure it out. So as a result, in this group, the one person went on to law school and created her own law firm with someone else. And somebody else adopted a child and so forth. So when she started the workshops, she puts it out to the group. What is it that you want and what is your obstacle? And one woman raises her hand and says, I want to dance with Patrick Swayze. That's a little while ago, right? And, you know, what's the first thing that you do when you hear something like that? Yeah, yeah, right. You know, so someone raises their hand and says, oh, you know, his mother lives 30 miles from here. I work there, and sometimes he comes and I've danced with him. So why don't you just come with me? And so that dream got fulfilled. That out of the, you know what? So and then there was another one who said that she said, I want to have an animal refuge for old animals that get neglected, that no one takes care of, and you know, even farm animals. So what's your obstacle? Well, what's my obstacle? I have no money, I have no land, I have no animals, I don't even have training, I don't have a license, nothing. So someone raises their hand and says, my mother was just in an automobile accident, and so she won't be able to run her refuge anymore, and she can't find anybody younger that will take it over. She's got the money, she's got the land, she's got the license, she's even got the animals. And so there it was, right? I mean, I'm listening to this, tell you the truth, I'm just like amazed. Another woman says, I make harps, and I make them out of a particular kind of wood that they grow in England. And the last tree that produced that wood is now gone. I can't make harps anymore. Someone in the back of the room raises his hand and says, are you talking about that kind of wood? This gives the Latin name for it. She goes, yes. I have a brother who lives in Australia who has a big stand of those trees. Let me give you his number. And then a funny looking lady, she says, this is in New York, stood up and said, I need to rent a chimp. And Barbara goes, did you say chimp? A chimpanzee? Yes, I need to rent a chimp. Well, why would you want to rent a chimp? Well, you know, I go into these corporations at noontime with children's toys for sale, and people come out of their offices because I have a chimp. And so I rent the chimp for $200 for the day, and they buy $400 worth of goods, so I can make a living from this. But now the price of renting chimps has gone up to $600. I'm out of business. So this well-dressed woman stands up and says, oh, I think we can do something for you. We can rent you a chimp at a much better price than that. And they go, really? Well, here in New York? She says, oh yeah, and we rent rhinoceroses and giraffes and all sorts of animals. Well, how can that be? Well, this is where commercials are shot. So we provide animals and even trainers for them. She got her chimp. So, so what Barbara was saying through all of this is that isolation is the dream killer. It's when you're thinking you have to figure it out by yourself that you just go, well, I wouldn't even know where to begin with this, you know. She says, you can't go around faking feelings, like putting a smiley face on and just saying it's all going to be okay, because it's not real. So so you just have to have a team and you have to just put out your wish or your dream, and then see what connections will take place for you. She says, human beings are problem-solving animals. So if somebody says to you, I want to be a ballerina, you go, but I'm 44 and I want to be a ballerina. She says, people will jump in and try and solve that problem for you because people are problem-solving animals. And even if they don't like you, they'll try and come up with a solution for you. It's just what we do. So she's somebody, one person that was living in Toronto. He was an accountant, and he knew everybody in town. And in that, this is a success team in Toronto. And this is a story she was told by a success team leader there, who said, yeah, this guy, he's an accountant, and he helps everybody get their wishes fulfilled because he knows everybody in town. So they finally said, look, you have to tell us what your dream is. He goes, no, I can't tell you. It's too stupid. You laugh at me. And they go, no, we never laugh at dreams. He says, well, I want to be a cowboy. And he said, of course, everybody laughed. But somebody had said, you know what? I have an uncle who lives in Alberta, and he has a cattle ranch, and he's looking for an accountant. So I'm going to get him on the phone right now, gets him on the phone, hands it over to him to talk to him. And he says, well, the accountant says, you can get your accounting done over the internet. And the man says, no, I don't want my stuff on the internet. So I want to fly you out here 1 week a month, and you can do my books for me. And he said, oh, I can't leave my business, though. I've got a business here, And he says, look, come out here, do your job, go on a cattle drive, and then go back home. Just take a week off, Well, what happened was he ended up moving to Alberta, doing his accounting business online, and he got to be a cowboy. I love that story. Anyway, so let's see if there's maybe one more to tell here. Yes, there's one or two more here really quick. This one woman wanted to go on a cruise, and she said, I have 3 obstacles. One is that my daughter, I have to stay home with my daughter. She is bedridden right now, and I can't leave her even for a minute. In fact, I don't know how I was even able to come here. And so this man comes running up from the back of the room and said, I was just on a run for the Heart Association, and I just won a cruise. It's a cruise for one. My wife's not going to want me to go on a cruise for one. Here, would this help? And then another woman spoke up and said, I'm a public health nurse, and I have to give pro bono time every year. I haven't done it yet this year. How about 10 days? Would that do it for you? And so then Barbara says, well, now that third obstacle you don't want to tell us about, you have to say it now. She says, well, it's kind of embarrassing. My daughter is frightened because her ex-husband has been stalking her. And from the back of the room comes this voice that says, I'm a cop. What's his name? Yeah, that kind of put an end to that problem. So what she basically is saying here is, you have to fulfill whatever that dream is. You have to. She says, in the case of this woman, her daughter who was injured will get better. Her daughter's going to become a teacher. Her daughter's going to teach kids and understand kids who are suffering or physically injured or who are full of fear, because she's been there. And then those kids are going to grow up having been helped by that. So it's how things roll out once you grab onto that thing that you want, even though you don't know how you're going to get to it. So she says, you just remember, the secret is, what is your wish, but what is your obstacle? And then put it out there to the group and see what can be done. And she says, and you can't tell me that you can't do it, because we got Ronnie a woman. That's how she ended it. But what I loved about this, and I know this is taking up a lot of time, is that you hear these very real, down-to-earth stories told in a humorous way, but how important it is to carry the light, as Lynn and Christina were saying. Your wish, your desire is your light. And it becomes a burden when the darkness of thoughts, the light dimmers come in and start dimming the light, because I know that stuff, because I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the training, I don't have the this, I don't have the that. All of those seem so very real. And yet, because hope doesn't walk alone, we put it out there, help comes in. People love to help. So that's my story about hope today. Okay, see where it takes us.